What really happened to America's golden boy? Ricky Nelson rose from sitcom sweetheart to rock and roll legend, but his life ended in a fiery plane crash that left fans heartbroken and confused. For decades, rumors swirled. Was it drugs, sabotage, or something far more disturbing? Now, after years of speculation and silence, the real truth has finally come to light. And it's not what anyone expected. If you think you knew the story of Ricky Nelson, think again. Stick around, because what we uncovered changes everything. Ricky Nelson was born Eric Hilliard Nelson on May 8, 1940, in Teaneck, New Jersey, to famous parents Ozzie and Harriet Nelson. Growing up in the spotlight was part of his destiny. His earliest exposure came through the long-running radio and TV series The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, a show that chronicled the everyday life of his family and became a staple of American households in the 1950s and early 60s. Millions watched as Ricky grew up before their eyes. With his good looks, boyish charm, and natural talent, he quickly became a fan favorite. But Ricky Nelson didn't want to remain just a sitcom character. In 1957, he recorded his first single, a cover of Fats Domino's hit, I'm Walkin'. The song rocketed up the charts and launched Ricky into a parallel career as a rock and roll sensation. He followed up with hit after hit, Hello Mary Lou, Travelin' Man, Poor Little Fool, Lonesome Town, and It's Late. At a time when rock music was still seen as rebellious, Ricky's clean-cut image helped make it palatable for mainstream audiences. He sold millions of records and became one of the top-selling male solo artists of his generation. In addition to music, Ricky Nelson proved himself as a capable actor. He appeared in the 1952 family film Here Come the Nelsons, then earned praise for his role in Rio Bravo, 1959, alongside John Wayne and Dean Martin. His performance brought fresh energy to the Western genre. He would later share the screen with Jack Lemmon in The Wackiest Ship in the Army, and made guest appearances on shows like General Electric Theater, The Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew Mysteries, The Love Boat, and The Streets of San Francisco. Whether it was a TV drama or a light-hearted comedy, Nelson showed range far beyond his teen idol image. But as the music landscape changed in the mid-1960s, Ricky's popularity began to wane. Rather than conform to the trends, he evolved. He formed the Stone Canyon Band and became one of the early pioneers of country rock, a genre that would later define acts like the Eagles. In 1972, he released Garden Party, a reflective anthem inspired by his disappointing experience at Madison Square Garden, where fans booed him for not playing his old hits. The song's message, "You can't please everyone, so you've got to please yourself," struck a chord with millions and became a defining moment in his career resurgence. Away from the stage, Ricky Nelson led a complex personal life. As a teen idol, he attracted immense attention, particularly from female fans. But his mother, Harriet Nelson, often disapproved of the girls he dated, fearing they might distract him from his career or tarnish his public image. Despite this, Ricky fell in love with Kristen "Chris" Harmon, the daughter of football legend Tom Harmon and film actress Elise Knox. Their 1963 wedding was widely publicized and seemed like the union of two Hollywood dynasties. The couple had 4 children: Tracy Nelson, who went on to become an actress, twins Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, who achieved success in the 1990s with their rock band Nelson, and their youngest, Sam Hilliard Nelson. The Nelson family became the first 3-generation act in American music history to have Billboard hits. But their marriage was far from the fairy tale it appeared. Over time, the pressures of fame, personal differences, and Ricky's demanding tour schedule took their toll. Rumors of infidelity and emotional strain intensified. By the late 1970s, the marriage had deteriorated, leading to a difficult separation and a drawn-out divorce finalized in December 1982. While both parents tried to maintain stability for their children, Ricky was deeply affected, and the pain of the breakup found its way into his music. Despite the setbacks, Ricky remained committed to performing. In December 1985, he embarked on a New Year's concert tour through the southern U.S., with stops planned in Orlando, Florida, Guntersville, Alabama, and Dallas, Texas. After successful shows in Florida and Alabama, the band boarded a vintage Douglas DC-3 aircraft, a World War II-era plane, for their final leg to Dallas. On December 31, 1985, at approximately 5:14 p.m., tragedy struck. The plane crash-landed in a cow pasture near DeKalb, Texas, just 2 miles from the runway. As it descended, it hit trees and burst into flames. Of the 9 people on board, only 2 survived, the pilot and co-pilot. 7 people were killed, including Ricky Nelson, his fiancée Helen Blair, and 5 members of his band: Andy Chapin, Rick Intveld, Bobby Neal, Patrick Woodward, and sound technician Donald Clark Russell. Initial reports were confusing. Some eyewitnesses claimed the plane was on fire in the air. Others said it caught fire only after landing. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, conducted a year-long investigation and suggested the likely cause was a malfunctioning gasoline-powered cabin heater. But the exact source of ignition remained undetermined, and the lack of concrete answers left room for damaging speculation. Rumors soon emerged that Ricky had been freebasing cocaine on board and accidentally caused the fire. These claims, fueled by tabloids, painted a dark picture. But toxicology reports later confirmed that Ricky Nelson had no drugs or alcohol in his system. No drug paraphernalia was ever recovered from the crash site. The rumors were not only false, they unfairly stained the memory of a man who had already been fighting for his legacy. Over the years, aviation experts and investigative journalists revisited the case. Through interviews with mechanics, technical records, and forensic analysis, a much clearer and far more disturbing truth emerged. The DC-3 was an aging aircraft with a long history of mechanical issues. The cabin heater, in particular, had malfunctioned multiple times, and previous pilots had raised concerns. Yet the issues were never properly addressed. In fact, the heater had been dangerously tampered with, jury-rigged in a way that violated aviation safety standards. Positioned below the floorboards and near flammable materials, it became a ticking time bomb. When it failed mid-flight, it ignited a fire that rapidly filled the cabin with smoke and toxic fumes. With no fire extinguishers or flame-retardant insulation, the passengers had no chance. Forensic reports indicated that Ricky and the others likely died from smoke inhalation before the crash even occurred. The most painful realization was that this tragedy was entirely preventable. The flight never should have taken off. The danger was known, and yet nothing was done. Ricky Nelson didn't die because of carelessness or drugs. He died because of negligence and systemic failure, because someone didn't do their job. Ricky Nelson's journey was powerful, heartbreaking, and unforgettable. A legacy of music, courage, and truth. As we honor his story, let it remind us of the price of neglect and the strength of reinvention. If this moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more true stories behind the stars. Thanks for watching.